Hi, my name's AnnMarie Pryke, and I am your host for today's Second Act Living podcast. This is a place where people in the second act of their life can come together to talk, laugh, pray about whatever this stage of life has to throw at you. So please help me welcome today's guest, Jennifer Ross Henry. So Jennifer is a speaker, writer, and survivor turned thriver who calls women into radical and ruthless self-examination. Her fight through breast cancer became the catalyst that forced her to confront her identity, her ambition, and the quiet ways she had been enduring instead of choosing. Oh, wow. She started as survival became a reckoning and ultimately a calling. Grounded in her faith and her belief that God wastes nothing, Jennifer blends business leadership, lived experience, and unapologetic storytelling to challenge women to break up with outdated versions of themselves and step fully into the season their lives are demanding. She is not building a brand. She is building a movement of women who refuse to disappear inside expectations, women who trust God deeply, question bravely, and choose to live radically and ruthlessly, aligned with who they are called to be. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. When I first met you, I was like, I really hope she'll invite me to be on her podcast.
Of course.
You're amazing in what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Like I said before, this was birthed out of my own struggle, and now it's become one of my most favorite things I do. So it's really interesting how things turn out like that,
Yep, I love it.
3-4 years ago, this was not on my radar, and now it's one of my favorite things. So
I love it. Love how God can use it.
Oh, I know. It's kind of amazing. So I always start with rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
So you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So when going on a date with your hubby, do you choose a romantic candlelit dinner or Netflix and pizza?
Netflix and pizza. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So
I want to be comfortable.
What is your go-to show right now?
So we are watching The Pit, which is
Yeah.
We're watching The Pit, that almost real life. It's not real life, but real life, ER show. That's what we're binging currently.
When going on a trip, do you pack your whole closet or do you travel light?
No, I am a very systematic packer traveler, and I'm all about the capsule wardrobe when traveling. So no, I take as little as possible.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me that's your answer.
Yeah, I want travel to be simple and easy. I don't want to be stressed out, and sometimes the stuff will stress me. So I want to travel light.
Yeah, that's true. Where are you finding joy in midlife?
Following my passion, doing the things that I feel I'm called to do, that sometimes are work and sometimes are not. But I find a lot of joy in researching and speaking about the things that I've been through and that are on my heart.
That's special.
Yeah.
What has been your favorite vacation?
A trip to Ecuador. I've been twice with my husband. Yeah, we went 2 times, so much so that we would love to relocate or have a second home there one day. Big dreams, big goals. But Ecuador. Yeah, we went for 10 days. We went for our honeymoon, and then a few years later, went back with our kids and had an amazing, life-changing experience.
That is so amazing. That is the first time anyone has ever said that location. So I love that so much.
Love it.
What is your bucket list vacation?
The somewhere where I can see the northern lights, preferably Iceland. It's just a long way to go to see some lights in the sky. But that would be a bucket list. In fact, I'm turning 50 this year, so that very well may be what I make happen. I don't know yet. I don't like the cold, you see. So,
and you know when it's cold because that's when they come out, right?
Right. So you got to go strategically. You could go all the way there and never see them. So it's one of those things where you have to be really prepared, but that's a bucket list item for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. What is one new skill or hobby you've always wanted to learn?
Good one. Well, this may seem more like old age instead of middle age, but I'd really love to pick up embroidery or crocheting. Again, that makes me sound a little on the other end of the spectrum, but it's making a comeback. And lately, I've been really looking at all the little kits and stuff to get into embroidery. Does that make me sound really boring?
No. And so, Another one of my guests said the exact same thing, that she wanted to learn how to crochet. So no, it's actually, like you said, it's definitely making a comeback for sure. For
It
sure.
is. It is. And I'm really here for it. I want to do it. So ask me about it.
There's something about learning a skill that makes you more capable in something that's really attractive, right? Like, yeah.
Well, and I also want something that I can do from home and that doesn't cost a lot of money and that doesn't really have any pressure attached to it. There's that too.
No, that's good. What is one way you stay connected with your kids?
Well, my husband and I, all of our kids are grown mostly, and we are always pursuing and chasing them. And I've loved your position and the things that you talk about on how to have an adult relationship with your kids. But the ways that we stay connected is what we call making space for them. We pretty much just invite them to anything we're doing. We're going to church. We're going to have a cookout. We just invite them. 9 times out of 10, they don't come. But they know there's always space for them. And when they do come, it's a real treat. So I think just making space for them in our lives has been how I have figured out how to best connect with them.
That is really special so I'm thinking of 2 specific other guests that I've had on. One of them said, invite without expectation, right? And another said, invite without taking it personally.
Oh yeah, you can't. If you took it personally, woof. Yeah, because they don't do it. They don't show up. They often don't come. They're busy. They've got their own lives. If I took it personally, I don't think I would just live in a hole, because I would feel offended all the time.
Offended. Yeah.
Really great at what she said, what your guest said. Great stuff.
She said specifically be unoffendable or something like that. I was like, oh, that's good. I think everyone could probably take that advice.
We should take that not just with our children, for sure.
Yeah. What is your go-to stress reliever?
Well, I'd love to give you the perfect Christian answer and say that I go to my knees in prayer. But the truth is I probably go to my husband and talk, verbally process. And my sister. So I'll go and process verbally with them. But then on my own, probably binging a show and just taking my mind off of something. Or yoga. I love doing yoga. And so I'll go out on my little patio and do some quiet yoga, And sometimes I have to force that. I have to force myself to do that. Once I'm there, it is a stress reliever for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are all great options. So I don't know if this applies. So if it doesn't, you just don't have to answer. What's worse, hot flashes or forgetting why you walked into a room?
Well, I don't have hot flashes ever, which is the weirdest thing. But forgetting why I walked into a room happens every day. Every day. And so for me, that would be the worst because that's what I experience on the regular.
That's so incredibly frustrating.
Yes. I will remember. I will remember what it was, but it's just going to take me a minute. I'll have to retrace my steps and stop for a second and think.
Yeah. So what is one piece of advice you would give your 20-something self?
Yeah. This one, I know exactly what this is. It's purely on the physical realm. Take better care of your hormones. Mindful of your hormones. Recognize you have them and that they are giving you life and making you who you are, and care for them. I feel like I really wrecked my hormones in my 20s between birth control pills. Of course, I had 2 kids in my 20s and and just the hormone disruptors and the things that I did, I don't really feel like I did not value my hormones until I didn't have them. And I'm like, I really want my hormones back, So I really feel like be aware of and care for your hormonal health.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good because it makes it all the difference as we're coming into this season. And it's like, what the heck's going on?
That's right. It does. And it started way back then.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. So we had such a rich initial conversation. Your 40s, right? You have had a decade of incredible, hard and good life experience. You have really been through it. So I think it'd be really good before we jump into what next and how you are where you are now based on your past 10 years. Can you take us back to your early 40s? what was the first like circumstance or struggle that like thrust you into almost a decade of hard health issues?
I had a huge 40th birthday party. I threw for myself a 70th party. I did,
Fun.
thinking this would be the best decade of my life. And in retrospect, now I'm at the end of it. I'm about to celebrate my 50th, as I mentioned. On the end of this decade, I had no idea what was waiting for me around the corner. And the first being a breast cancer diagnosis at age 41. So that was definitely the beginning of wait a minute, this isn't going to go like I thought.
Mm.
So that was the beginning.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what did that, gosh, breast cancer what was that like? Like what were your thoughts? How did you process all that?
Well, it was, came in phases, but the first was, am I going to die? I decided I was not going to die. I just made a decision. I was like, I'm 41. I had already envisioned my grandkids. I'd already envisioned my life. And I know a lot of people envision their life and never get the chance to live it out. Thankfully, God saw differently for me. But my first decision was like, I'm going to live through this. I was stage 3. So it was, could have gone. It still can go. I mean, any one of us is susceptible, but I'm always looking over my shoulder, always will. And so it was, I had just resigned from a very stressful job that in my being knew I shouldn't do much long. Like I just knew it wasn't good for me. And so I had just resigned when I got diagnosed. So I was just rebuilding like my career. And so my career kind of came to a screeching halt. And I just remember kind of like having to like erase things off my calendar as I replaced them with treatment and replace them with like lifestyle changes I was going to have to undergo. So the processing of that was more like, oh, this isn't going to go like I thought. Like this is out of my control now. I do not have control outside of obviously the mind body connection. I do not have control however this is going to go. I am now in the system, the medical system. And so once I was in the medical system, my life just became one doctor's appointment, one diagnosis, one new phase after another for years. And so that was just life altering in every way, especially my career, my physical health, everything changed. Yeah.
How long were the treatments for breast cancer? How long was that process?
Well, I had different phases. I started with chemotherapy, which lasted, I had 6 of the bad chemo and 11 of the not so bad chemo. And because I had a HER2 positive cancer, so there was an extra kind of treatment that had to go on top of it. So there was extra long treatments there. That was, the beginning of just my body was wrecked at that point after chemo. But then I had radiation that I went through for 35 rounds of radiation. And then I had a double mastectomy after the chemo. Then I had radiation. And then once I got through radiation, I started my breast reconstruction. So, I mean, it was that alone, that whole process was a year, just going through those phases and never, never really allowing myself time to heal either. So I was rushing through it. I was like, let's get this over with. Let's just do this. And the system rushed me through it too. They want you to get through it. They don't want you to stop. They, just go, 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 go. In retrospect, I should have taken it a lot slower.
Oh, I did not realize in our initial conversation that you did all of that chemo, the double mastectomy, and the radiation in a year?
And started a reconstruction, which never should have happened. And I hope that any of your listeners, if they have had or going through or know someone that is, don't rush into the reconstruction. Yeah, granted, eradicate the cancer, get rid of it. Like, I get the urgency. But when it comes to the reconstruction, take your time on that. My body was so wrecked from all of that I really should have waited and given myself time to heal, but I didn't. So all that in a year. Yeah. And then really the next year was the havoc from the reconstruction, because the reconstruction really wreaked havoc on my body. And so then I had like all this healing I had to do from that. And then as soon as I get healed from one thing, there would be another symptom I'd have to heal from. So it was just this constant battle against my body. So it was tough. It was at least 2 years worth of fighting in one form or another. Yeah.
Wow. So you started the reconstruction first year, had it in the second year, and then it didn't go well.
It did not go well. I had to stop. The reconstruction. Like I said, I was not ready. My body was not ready. And I got a terrible infection from the surgery, one of the surgeries that I had for my reconstruction, and had to stop my reconstruction and start over. They had to go, there was an emergency surgery that had to go in, and I had already made significant progress in my reconstruction because they have to expand the skin and prepare. And I'd already made significant advancement in that when I got the infection. And so they had to take everything out, take out all that skin that had developed, and I had to just start over. And that was that was the hardest part because I wasn't even sure I wanted to do it again at that point. And I didn't. Stopped for a long time, and so yeah. And then I broke my foot in the middle of that. I mean, broke it.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I had a spontaneous fracture in my foot that I couldn't bear any weight on my foot for 3 months. So while I'm going through the reconstruction, I had a broken foot. I felt so sorry for myself for about a month. I just cried every day. I was like, why is it? I made it through all this. Why have I gotten this far? Now I can't even walk. I mean, the Lord really, really slowed me down, like really humbled me and just was like, chillax, Jen, chill. I'm telling you to sit still, literally. So that was part of that second year.
Were you still working?
Well, some point, no, not, yes, I had opened my coaching company at this point. So, and I had started working, yes, for the locker room, but they were entrepreneurial endeavors. I wasn't getting up and going to a job every day.
Yeah.
I was working. I was working from home. I was working on my computer, creating things. And so, yes, I was working my own pace at this point, though. So it wasn't like, I don't know how a woman gets up and goes to her full-time job. I don't know how she does it. I'm pretty high capacity and pretty high energy. There is no way I would have. And I know women that do get up and go to work. And I couldn't have done that. And I'm so thankful God provided for us during that time through other sources. Otherwise, I don't know what we would have done. And to be fair, financially, it did wreck us. Even so, we had a massive financial reckoning, if you will, that we had to go through. And sometimes to this day, we still have things that crop up from that we still have to deal with from that financial crisis we had to go through on top of everything else.
Right. So from 41 to when were all the surgeries done and you are on your way to healing?
Say by my mid 40s, I was starting to feel like a normal person again, like my new self. I mean, I never will be that same person again. That fundamentally changed me. But it was about mid 40s that I started taking life for granted again, started thinking, I'm on the other side of this. I'm going to keep moving on. I mean, there was a physical aspect that probably took just some of the side effects of chemo took years to overcome. And it was probably 4 years. Jeff and I were actually, my husband and I were talking about this not long ago, that it took probably 4 years for me to physically feel like myself again. So, yeah.
What were some of the symptoms that you were still experiencing?
Well, I had a lot of gastrointestinal issues. And then a lot, and I know this is a women's podcast, and I'm pretty open about a lot of intimacy issues. My body just did not recover, came back to my I was not to my knowledge, wasn't even in perimenopause when I went into chemo. And the interesting part about being in your 40s when you get diagnosed, and the doctor was very clear about this. He said, women in their 30s will recover and get back into their period and get back into their cycles, and women in their 50s won't. But women in their 40s are 50-50. You don't know what's going to happen hormonally, like whether or not you will get back into a cycle or not. And so it was years before my cycle did come back. And my body began to feel female again because I'm just going to put it like this. I felt like a dried up raisin. And My entire body just felt like a dried up raisin. And it took 4 years for my body to start functioning again and allowing myself for intimacy and for a period and for my life to just start to feel feminine again. It was the craziest. And a lot of that was probably mental and emotional too. It took me a long time to get back to my full female self.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I realized that chemo had that kind of effect, but it makes sense. I mean, it makes total sense. And then when you're talking about breast cancer, how could that not affect you emotionally, physically, just questioning your own femininity?
Yep.
Like, how,
Yep.
wow. And then connection with your husband, like, how does that even work? Right.
Well, thankfully I know Austin's amazing. I
Yeah.
have an amazing husband. I wanted to say the very best husband, but I know you have a really great one too.
Best for you. It's
Best
best for you.
Literally, God knew what he was doing. We'd only been married 4 years this is the second marriage for both of us. We'd only been married 4 years when I was diagnosed. So it could have gone really, he could have just been like, hey, in sickness and in health, I don't know if I meant that part. He was still is incredibly patient with me through all of my life changes. And breast cancer there's a hit to your femininity, a real hard. You lose your breast. I did. I lost my eyebrows, my eyelashes, my hair. You kind of just exist as this asexual being for a while,
Mm.
like existing. Your breast turned on you, and then all your internal organs are all susceptible now, all your reproductive organs, because I had a hormone positive cancer. So there's all these other risk factors that go along with all the other pieces of you that make you you as a woman. And so, yeah, it does. It really takes a toll on your vanity, on your femininity, and your body shape. Everything about you has to change and become new. And so it took a long time for me to kind of fully step into this new body, this new mindset, and figure out who I was again.
Wow. So how did going through all those hard events change the way, like you said, like you trusted your own body or your own mind or your instincts? Like how did that play out?
Well, it strengthened my knowledge that I do know myself well. I know my body. I mean, I know every little thing that goes wrong. I'm so aware of my body. And I was before, but now it's just a lot more. I'm very connected to my body, and when I go to the doctor, I'm telling them more what I think is wrong with me than, and it's because I just listen to my body. I watch my patterns. I see my cycles. I see kind of like how my body processes different things that I eat or I drink or how I behave in my lifestyle and how it affects me later. And I'm super in tune with those things, partly because I don't want to get caught by surprise again. I mentioned earlier that there's this sleeping bear I don't want to poke. And, it's always the question of, is it going to come back? Or is it going to be something else? Because once your body betrays you the way that mine did, you never look at your body's functions the same way ever again. Because I was so shocked that I had cancer. Because I was living a very stressful life, and I was doing a lot of coping that was probably very unhealthy. But I was young in my mind. I was 41. It didn't feel like it was time to get cancer. Like it's an old lady thing, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I hope I answered your question, that it's made me a lot more in tune
A lot. So it's caused you to be a lot more in tune with your body.
and to have a lot healthier respect for my body's functions and systems and how responsible I have to be with them if I want to live a full, energetic, long life.
Mm.
And forget the length, forget the longevity. If I want to live a full life with what I'm given today, like it is my responsibility to make sure that I protect that. No one else is going to do that for me. Society is not set up for today's woman's wholeness and wellness. It is not, even though everything in our algorithms flood us with nervous system regulation and all these things. Even the nervous system regulation comments they're nerve-wracking sometimes because it's another pressure that we're not doing things right.
Yes, that we're not doing enough or we're not doing it correctly. And you can watch, I mean, depending how dialed in you are into the like social media and all that kind of stuff, you can watch 5 different content pieces and it's 5 different, you must be doing this or else, right? And you're just like, I don't know.
I don't
and
know.
then the doctor, and that's something completely different too. So you're just like, I just don't know. Right.
And that's personal responsibility we each have to take, to experiment, find out what can I do, what will work for me, my life in this season, because it's going to change next month or next week or whatever,
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. I think flexibility, we have to be aware. First, we have to acknowledge that there are seasons of life, because I think we want to get stuck in, maybe younger seasons or whatever. But I think it's acknowledging and appreciating that, no, there are seasons of life. No, there is normal changes. Sometimes the changes are exacerbated depending on like health issues or life experience and things like that. But like, that's good. Like, seasons of life is good, and it brings new and different possibilities, right? But I think sometimes we grieve youth a little bit instead of looking of like what is possible now, right?
Yeah.
And it keeps us stuck. It keeps us stuck. And like you said, I don't think society necessarily appreciates fully maybe what people, not just women, people in general in midlife have to offer, right? And that's a shame, because we have so much life experience, so much wisdom. So, we've been through a lot, good and bad. And the things that can be gleaned from that is so important. But anyway, that's something else. That's another topic.
We can talk about that one too.
Gosh, so what do you think maybe was the hardest or one of the hardest parts of just feeling awful, right? Like feeling awful for a long time. And then, and maybe you didn't feel like you were getting the help or the support that you needed. Like what was really hard about that?
The medical system, I'm so thankful for my doctors and for the nurses, specifically the nurses, because it was a nurse that saved my life when 2 times when things went sideways with my treatments. And I'm so thankful for the medical system. So nothing I say following this is a detriment or negative about the medical system. However, the medical system is they're taught, everyone in the medical system is taught that you're in a flow chart. You and I talked about the flow chart. This is your diagnosis. So if this, then that, if this, then that. And that's how I just felt like, there was this constant just who's listening to me about what's going on with me. And there, especially during my reconstruction, when I got the infection, that I knew something was wrong with me. I felt terrible. I mean, I couldn't hold my body up straight. I had horrific pain. There was just something was definitely going wrong. I had been through chemo and radiation and at this point, like 5 surgeries, and had never felt this kind of fatigue and pain. And to be my doctor just pushed me off and demeaned me. He literally at one point even sort of accused me of just wanting pain meds, which I didn't want because they weren't helping. And I remember feeling so alone and dejected about it and thinking, maybe it is me. Maybe it is me. Looking back now, I know that God had me go through chronic pain for 2 months to understand chronic pain, because it does change you. It does change you. And how to have a voice despite your pain to your doctors, how to be able to explain and describe that. So, it was lonely. It was very, very lonely for a long time. But, there are a lot of resources out there, and I did a lot of reading and a lot of studying about my disease, and I was able to educate myself. I did hire I hired a cancer coach who helped me with the more lifestyle changes that I could create that would help me ease me through my transition of everything. And that was super helpful. I don't know what I would have done without him as well, because he really did give me a lot of great insight too. So, it's very lonely. And then also, we've talked about this. There's so much information out there about all these other treatment options. And that you almost don't even know where to start. So it's confusing and lonely.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be. And it must feel like so isolating too, because feeling that terrible, you don't want to be around people. You don't want to do anything. You certainly don't want to, not to be, you certainly don't want to be intimate with your husband. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to do anything.
No, you
right?
really don't. I mean, I kind of got obsessed about my disease, and I just went into like studying and learning about my situation, learning and trying to figure out what could I do to make myself feel better. And I've experimented with a lot of things to figure out what was going to work. And I know some stuff that will work and some stuff that doesn't. Spent a lot of money experimenting. But I also, alongside all of that, as lonely and as isolating as that was, I also found myself in it. And I found my passion in it. And I found my voice in it. And so I was building that alongside there, and I was discovering myself. So even though I was isolated, I was with myself and God, and I really increased my faith and deepened my faith. Like that was the overarching outcome of all of that was, man, if I'm going to make this, I'm not going to make it on my own. It's going to need to be with my creator alongside with me, who knows my body better than anybody. And that was a big part of my walk as well, was just really going deep. And I still have all my journals and all my Bible studies I did where I was just digging through the word and discovering. I was in a big discovery mode.
Yeah.
That's a big part of that.
That is a hard lesson of connecting and being still. Suffering, I don't mean this to be trite, but like truly there is no growth in the comfortable. And I'm not saying that yours is talking about comfortable, uncomfortable. It was way beyond that. All I'm saying is, like, especially since you were super driven, super ambitious, very busy in your career and stuff, you probably didn't give yourself the time and space to be still. Right. So yeah, my prayer life, it's interesting you said that, as you go through hard struggles and things like that, my prayer life has changed dramatically when I'm going through those kind of seasons of trial. Is instead of Lord, save me from this, it's shifted of Lord, be with me in this. Yeah. Right. And that's a different posture, right? It's definitely a different posture of surrender, and trust, because I think you and I are similar in we like control and we're very good at managing, right? We're very good at managing. And I think maybe we talked about this before. There's like this curse of capability, I call it, of the more capable you are, the less reliant you have to be, because you don't need to be reliant. You don't need to, right? And so that posture of you saying, if you don't show up, it's not going to happen. If you don't show up, I can't do this, right? That only comes with struggle, but it is a yucky lesson. It is hard.
Well, it's yucky, but also the sooner you learn it, the sooner you can get through this, I didn't struggle for very long with it. Thankfully, the Lord and I had already had some struggles through my divorce where I had learned to rely on him, and it wanes, obviously, that surrender wanes. But one of the things that my surrender taught me during all of that was to make peace with the worst case scenario, which for me, that's surrender. Is, Lord, if your plan would be that I wouldn't make it through this, or that I would make it disfigured, broke, living under a bridge, the worst case scenarios that I could imagine. If that is your plan for me, then I have to trust that it is a good plan. And I don't want that, Lord. I'm a human being. I don't want that. Please don't let that be your plan. But if that is your plan, I have to trust that that is where I will find my peace and joy, because you will provide it for me. And that was the real surrender for me. Also, during my journey, the Lord taught me to have peace with death, which sounds pretty morbid for this podcast, but
no, I mean,
it really was one of the big lessons that came out of this is like, I do want to live. I want to live. I still feel young. I still feel like there's so much I still want to do. But I know that on the other side of this life we hold on to so hard, putting ourselves through chemos and surgery and radiation to stay here, I know that on the other side, we're going to look back and go, why were we holding on so hard? And that was a big takeaway that I took away from my spiritual walk, was making peace with death and saying, if you want to take me home, it's because it's better. It's going to be better. And I don't want to go and I don't want to miss this here, but I'm going to trust you even with my death. And that part was a big growth for me because I was so fearful of death in the beginning. And, I still am. I don't want to die, but I know that he's given me the vision of knowing that there'll be a time on the other side when I will laugh at how hard I held on. That sounds crazy, but that was where I landed with my death.
Jennifer, that is so incredibly powerful that you can say that and truly mean that of what you said of, if this is your plan, then I have to trust that it is good. Right.
And that it will be better than what I would wish on my best day.
Because in our human mind, that doesn't sound better. Right.
No. Well, and in the spiritual world is the upside down. It's always counterintuitive to what our flesh wants and needs. It's always counterintuitive. And it doesn't ever make sense until you trust and God gives you the eyes to see. And then when he does come through for you in miraculous and tender and intimate and personalized ways is when you do recognize that is his plan and that it is better.
Wow. So for 4 years of hard, and then what has been the second half of your 40s? What has that been like?
Well, it doesn't just end there, right? Cancer wasn't enough. So just kind of getting back on my feet, coming back into myself, and my body decides to turn on me again. And 2 years ago, I started having some female issues that were likely a result of the treatments. And my body turned on me yet again. And I spent 6 months, and I won't get into graphic detail, but I spent 6 months suffering through the worst female things that we all have to go through. And it got worse and worse and worse and progressively worse until it became an emergency, at which time my doctor finally was like, it's time for hysterectomy. And we had to have it this week because my blood I was failing. My body was failing me. And again, I had to really push for that because nothing else was working. And I knew I was slowly dying again. So I had a hysterectomy, and he wanted me to do a full hysterectomy because of my cancer risk. He insisted that if I'm going in there, I might as well take your ovaries too. So we did. We took everything. And that was the next phase of the second half of my 40s was a full hysterectomy, waking up in menopause with, and you and I talked about this, with absolutely zero support, which in retrospect, 2 years later, and I said this to you and I mean it, and I've said it and I will continue to preach it. The level of support that I was given after a full hysterectomy was criminal, should be criminal. Taking the organs or the hormones and not even offering me a support group or a book to read or anything, and just go do it. You'll be fine. If you get hot flashes, do these things. Never got a hot flash. So never really connected the dots of how my mental and emotional and physical breakdown could be related to menopause. Just thought I was getting old until I finally, about 9 months into this hysterectomy, was like, this is menopause. This is terrible. So that was about this time last year that I finally was just like, I feel terrible, chemically terrible. And so that's been my latest and greatest journey, is navigating menopause. And that's been fun.
And so I've said this before, there is not a single cell in your body that is not affected by estrogen. There isn't. So, but and I even have a little bit of a medical background. I didn't know that.
Neither
Right.
did I.
So when these symptoms, and my symptoms have been way more gradual, you probably woke up in menopause, right? But as these symptoms surface, you're just like, is this normal? Is this not normal? No one's talking about it. Okay. Is it normal to have brain fog? Like, I thought maybe it was like the foods I was eating or whatever, which it could have been, whatever. But it's this recurring thing in my mind of, am I crazy? I feel like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Cause I want to kill you right now, but it's no reason, right? Or I don't want to talk to anyone, or whatever that symptom of the day was, or my joints are killing me. That was one. I didn't know that was I had no idea. Yeah. So when you're thrust into that overnight, I cannot even imagine. And then having no support, no help, nothing. Figure it out. This is your new normal. I'm like, oh, does that like?
Well, and it's irreversible. I mean, there was a moment in time I was like, why did I let them take my ovaries? I guess in retrospect, I don't have to worry about ovarian cancer now. Okay, check that one off the list. But it was overnight for me. I was thrust into menopause, but the downfall of my mental state was gradual over 3 or 4 months. It was probably 3 to 4 months when I started really not recognizing myself. And I guess, again, my own research and study, because no doctor has told me this, I guess it takes a little while. You've got estrogen in your tissues and your system, so it's still living off of that. But then once that was gone and depleted, then I was left with this whole chemically new person who I was, who I did not recognize, did not understand her, did not understand how she was thinking, felt something was wrong with me. And the never one hot flash, because that was the only thing he warned me about. So I'm thinking I must be okay because I didn't have hot flashes. Everything's still working. Logically, that doesn't make sense. But when you're just living your life and you're doing your things and you suddenly don't recognize yourself, I can't even explain to you how disorienting that is to not understand yourself. And I feel honestly like in looking back, that was probably harder than even walking through my new identity from cancer.
Yeah.
Because it was that much more appalling to me. The things that I'd been able to tolerate before, like these little hard things that I could work through, could not do it. I had no inner motivation to work through hard things. The brain fog you've mentioned. The funniest symptom, and I can't remember if you and I talked about this at our meeting, was the choking on like air.
Yes. So we did talk about this.
Yes.
Yours is a little bit more, yours is like more complicated than mine, but like, I didn't know that was a symptom that started where I'm like, I'm having a hard time swallowing.
Huh.
Like
Yeah.
harder, like if I'm not super intentional about like small bites, chew consistently and don't talk when you're eating, like, which you shouldn't anyway, but whatever. I would choke and it would get stuck. I mean, I had ultrasounds. I had all kinds of stuff. Like there's something wrong with my throat. And they were like, no, you're fine. I'm like, okay, I guess this is my new normal now. Like, yeah.
I call it menopause throat. It's my own little thing, but I was walking through an airport and sipped my water and it triggered my gag reflex. The water didn't go down right. I started gagging, not just like, but like gagging, gag reflex, like throwing up reflex. And I had to go to the bathroom and I was horrified and it would not clear. And it had happened multiple times. And finally I'm like, I got to figure this out. So I Google it. Sure enough, it's a thing. And I just remember being infuriated. I'm sitting there in this airport thinking, this menopause just doesn't stop. It's just every new day, there's this new symptom. I know you know what I'm talking about. And it's no one prepares you for this.
Mm-mm.
Our mothers, my mom went through the change. And I remember her moods changing and she would blame her, some of her moodiness on some of her, but she didn't even know what she was going through. She just muscled through it. So yeah, this is tough. This is tough.
And so, yeah, to your point, especially if you in your like maybe like in your friend group, you're on the like older end of the friend group. So like you're the first one to go through it. You don't even have your friends to go to for this kind of stuff because they don't know. And depending on like your mother, my mother didn't tell me anything about anything. So I didn't know, right? And she certainly didn't talk about her own experience. So like you're just kind of in the dark. And again, the medical system is great. They do the best they can with what they have, right? Especially like primaries. They only have a certain, right, whatever. But it's even the gynecologists. I would talk and they would be like, it's normal. I'm like, okay.
I think in order to advise women on menopause, you need to be a woman who's gone through menopause to really truly understand the depth of change that occurs in our bodies and our minds.
Yeah.
And my doctor was so great. He really was. And in the end, he saved my life. Okay. My gynecologist that did my hysterectomy, God bless him. How could you let me walk out of that hospital without so much as a book or an article to read? Like, give me something.
Or some kind of like talk to this person or whatever, like
Support group.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
And his PA was fabulous as well. She was young. She was in her probably early 30s, and she was great. She did more of the female to female conversations with me. She still, did not. And she did make mention. She goes, you may feel different, but nothing that justified, like, the amount of change I experienced warranted a support group. It warranted a college degree to understand what was happening to me. Like, I needed more. And I talk to all my girlfriends now every time that they have something like, it's menopause, that's menopause. I'm talking about it because and my daughter, she's only 26, but I'm telling her, care for yourself, care for your hormones, thank them, because she was complaining about some symptoms she was having with her, female stuff the other day. I'm like, be thankful because, you got to care for those hormones. They make you who you are, in terms of like how you're behaving. So I could go on and on about that.
Yeah. So through this long season of hard and self-discovery, right? So I think you've learned how to rest.
Yeah.
I think that was something that's kind of rest and renewal and rediscovery. And so what do you think was the guiding light for you, like through this time? What was that thing that you held on to?
Well, my relationship with the Lord, I always have to point back to that. I mean, he gives you the answers when you're looking for them, and it may not come in the conventional ways that you expect, but there's just deep knowing, and as I mentioned before, I follow some really great ladies, doctors that are speaking the truth. And so that helped me a lot to understand my own journey and to be like, oh, I have other people going. I'm not alone in this. And then, I've got some great female friends that have been really there for me during this transition, that have stayed with me and helped me and understood me and not judged me, and my sister included, and my husband.
Yeah, that kind of leads me to my next question. I'm curious, how did this long season change your thoughts on career or relationships or friendships? Like, how did that change?
180. It 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 was That's probably been the hardest part, was really learning who am I as a friend, and who am I as a career woman, because that's all had to be re-identified. And a lot didn't make it through that re-identification. A lot did not make it because I had to see things for what they were. I've had to evaluate things in my life and honestly determine whether they belonged in my life anymore. And could I, in a clear conscience, keep them in my life? And while I don't want to make this all about me and my journey, is it good for me? Is it going to move me closer to my purpose and my calling, or is it going to hold me back from those things? And there's been a lot that I've had to radically take out of my life,
Mm.
including some friendships, including some habits that did not serve me. I've had to prioritize other things like my sleep. I do everything in my power to make sure that I get a good night's sleep now. Like that's ultimately everything is driven by when do I get to sleep and how long am I going to sleep and what do I do to make sure I stay asleep? And, and my career. So then as far as my career, this has been the hardest one for me because the journey of a decade through these things has changed my ambition a lot. I've had to face my ambition square in the face. And I've had to realign it with God's plan for me, not just because I'm capable, I should go do it. No. Yeah, I'm capable of a lot of things. We as women can do a lot of things. Doesn't mean we should. And I was juggling a lot of things. And so I'm constantly doing more subtraction than I am addition. And so subtracting. And I can honestly say at the end of this decade, finally, and I mean it like almost to the point where to the day I mean this because, and I'll tell you why in a minute, I've done so much subtraction to simplify my life down to these key areas where I can be the most powerful inside of my calling. And everything in my life has to align with that to the best of my ability. And I'm responsible for that. No one else is. And so those boundaries have been heightened and strengthened through this process because of survival one and then thriving two. And I mentioned to the day because Saturday, which was just a few days ago, my husband and I finally got rid of the last junk in this house that was like holding me back emotionally, stuff. We've even simplified our physical space, our home. And so just Saturday, we finished, we put the garage in order. Everything is where it needs to be. Finally, after a decade of just this physical and metaphorical baggage that I've been carrying, slowly but surely releasing it so that I can just carry what I need to carry because of what I know I'm capable of now and how much that has shifted and changed. That's a really long answer, but it's the most
it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
And so, and this is why, you're a coach, I'm a coach. This is why, one of the reasons why I love coaching, because coaching gives you the space to do just that. Hopefully you don't have to go through health issues to be thrust into that. But if you are in a season of like, what do I need to say no to say yes to this? Right? Because I feel like that's kind of what it is. But coaching gives you that time and space to do that, to figure out what is my purpose? What is my calling? What do I want? What do I want my life to look like in 5 years? And how can I get it? Right? So yeah, I mean, it's so important. Otherwise, we are just busy in life doing life.
That's right.
And we never feel happy, really. We never feel content. The contentment, because you're always just like striving for the next best thing, but it's not really filling us. So, we say we want this, we get it, and you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's not what I wanted. Let's try something else. But like to give yourself that time and space to evaluate, like, does this serve me? Yeah. Does this serve my purpose and calling that I know I have on my life? And then the courage to let go. It takes courage. It takes courage and hard work to let go of some of those things. Because like you said, you had to let go of friendships, and that is hard.
It is hard. And I, love my people, and but we only have so much time on this planet to do the things that we're supposed to do. And my filter for a lot of the things I looked at is it bringing me closer to my calling? Or is it moving? That was the filter for me does this align with the life I need to lead or not? And it's not that anyone else is bad or anyone else is good. It's an alignment. It's truly just an alignment. And what you had in your life a decade ago very well may not serve you now. And so you have to be able to interrogate those things pretty much regularly. And I think if we as women, like you said, it doesn't have to be a health crisis. It just needs to be listening to yourself and listening to that inner wisdom that Holy Spirit that we are guided by will tell you. You don't have to go through a crisis to say, I need to change my lifestyle. You can do it every single day by listening to the things that feel right or don't feel right to you. And then, like you said, having the courage to, with grace and love, move away from those situations and move into the life that you're called to live. That's way easier said than done. And
100%. And then I think I've talked about this before. I think there's also a grieving process in that too.
For
Grieving maybe the person you were or the person you thought you were going to be or whatever. Grieving a circumstance, grieving a relationship. I think allowing yourself a little bit of grieving time and then not getting stuck in the grief, but then like, okay, how can this transform me? How can this renew me? What is this going to look like? Right. So, but I think allowing yourself time to grieve what isn't anymore or what won't pass. Exactly. Yeah.
in my life, doesn't look anything like what I hoped it would look like.
Sure.
Nothing.
Sure. I mean, of course. How could you have possibly anticipated that life experience?
And I mean, that's for all of us, And somebody else going through the loss of a loved one or financial situation or career loss or whatever, the grieving process, it's so, if you're, especially if your identity is rooted in Christ, like if you know that you're safe because you are loved by your creator. Okay. First and foremost, the grieving along with the excitement of what your God is doing, it's like they're simultaneously happening at the same time. Yeah. And then there's guilt that I'm excited about my new life while grieving the life I've left behind. So it's this weird mix of feelings that the human journey is, especially through midlife.
Yeah.
And
yes.
we become new, different women.
So how has this experience played a part in like your possible career shifts now? Like what does that look like?
I say I'm not driven by money. I mean, I could go get a job doing anything to make money. And while money is still important, I still have to work. I mean, we are an economy where I still work. What I say yes to is so small. I mean, I can't say yes to a lot. I'm so careful that what I say yes to is aligned with the ultimate goal. And then, there is, I don't know if it caught this part, but the economy still says, I mean, I still work because I have to, and I still have to make money. And so, I'm careful. I'm really careful about what I say yes to in my work. But my career shifted, man, if I could just live my life making money, supporting myself while doing my calling, which I believe is this conversation we're having, I would be as happy as could be. God hasn't seen that yet to be the case, but maybe one day. Mm-hmm. Maybe one day I can just do that and nothing else. But my career shifted. I still do coaching and I'm still in the real estate realm. So because that's my career history. But and I'm hoping God will just make a way in the future to where I can just speak about this and that's all I do. That would be amazing.
So speaking is your passion right now, right?
Speaking is my passion. Yes, that's really where I want to land and some broader stages and bigger stages where I can get these messages out, where I can speak to women about these choices that we have to make, and I'm not giving anybody permission because I don't have that authority, but I want to show women what it looks like. I want to do for women what some women did for me, but I had to go do a lot of that for myself. Yeah. And I would love to be able to trailblaze through some of this new stuff that we're navigating as women.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. To echo that, my biggest why I feel called to coaching women in midlife is I strive to be the woman I had. I strive to be the woman I wish I had 10 years ago.
Same. That's beautiful. Right. Yes.
That is my why. To come alongside, to partner with someone to be the person I wish I had.
Yeah. Right. And you are so good at that. And yes, that is your calling. Wholeheartedly. Yeah.
So what advice would you give a woman who feels awful and feels like no one is helping in this midlife season? Like, what kind of advice would you give someone?
Well, definitely listen to this podcast, all of yours.
Thank you.
Give you a call, maybe get yourself a coach named AnnMarie Pike. Okay. Okay. So recognize first and foremost, I mean, this would literally be my advice if you were sitting here telling me that. First and foremost, we are women. We are mind, body, and spirit. We are not just our bodies. Even though that's what we decorate, we're so much more and deeper than that. There are things inside of us in our mind and our spirit that have to be in alignment with our body too. And so looking at your whole life and saying, okay, maybe it's physical, maybe it's mental, maybe it's spiritual, maybe it's emotional, figuring out what those pieces are to help you feel whole, because wholeness is the goal. It isn't, making a lot of money. Yes, it's, a lot of women have that as their goal, but the wholeness where we can fully operate as a whole woman instead of being fragmented into these pieces is the key. But the advice that I really want to say is, when it comes to the decisions you have to make to be a whole woman, you will walk a lonely path sometimes. Um, it's radical. The choices you have to make are radical. And I use these two words a lot. Radical means that a lot of people in your world may not agree with your decision. They may not understand your decision, but it's got to be radical, because the path that most people are taking is not working. Most women, it's not working. So your path is going to be pretty radical. It's going to feel radical. And then the second thing I would say is, it's going to feel pretty ruthless, meaning you're going to have to make these decisions and you're going to have to do it unapologetically, and find people like you and like me who are in your circle and in your corner saying, it's okay, you're doing the right thing, keep moving, keep going forward, keep getting closer, follow your dream, follow your passion, follow your calling, trust the Lord's going to have you there. And so that's my best advice. And listen to yourself. Listen. When you go out to lunch with that friend, if you're coming back from that lunch and you're exhausted, that friend is draining your energy. You don't have to do it. Good Christian girls don't still have to put up with things that don't feel right in here. That's my best advice.
You don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it.
I love radical, ruthless. I love that. Yeah, because those words can be polarizing and scary, right? But if you really want and need to make change, health change, healthfully changing your patterns, then that's what's required.
It
It's
is.
so
It's not going to be I shouldn't say that. There are some small habits that you can change in your life that can make a big, an exponential difference down the road. But the likelihood, what I've done in the last decade has been radical and ruthless. And it still has not been enough. There's still more that God is doing in me. And so it's radical what we have to do as women. Again, society's doesn't look like that. Does not look like that. Everything else says more. This says less. It's again radical. And so, and then again, don't feel like you have to apologize or explain it. Do what's right for you. Align it with God's plan for your life. Bring the support around you that you need. It's going to be small. It's not going to be big and shiny, but that's what matters. That's where you're going to find your people.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for this conversation. You are a light. You are a breath of fresh air. You bring sunshine into every conversation, and just your courage and willingness to be vulnerable and talk about really hard things is just incredible. So I so appreciate that.
Thank you for having me and giving me a space to talk about this. In so many ways, it's therapeutic for me every time I get to revisit this, because it reminds me how far God's brought us and what He's still doing in all of us. And I hope my message can be an inspiration to many.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. So thank you so much.
Thank you.